there was one piece of advice, one message that you could disseminate to the world, what would it be?
I have to go back to, just get after, keep going, just do it. What you set your mind to, just make sure the motivation is right, and just get to it and do it. Don't delay, don't let people discourage you from reaching it. Just go after it.
I like it.
Yeah.
In this episode, Valerie sits down to talk to me about her journey growing up as a preacher's kid to finding purpose with her career as a dental hygienist and now author. We touch on her core values, giving back, family, and even some sports. Enjoy this conversation with my friend Valerie Price.
Miss Valerie Price.
Hi.
Thanks for joining. Let me into your humble house today.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. So it's been a while since I recorded, but I wanted to have a conversation with you because we're in a professional networking group.
Yes.
And one of the observations I had of you is very energetic and caring. Mm-hmm. And I admire your spunk and your energy.
Thank you.
So it's very, very, when you give your presentation, everyone's energy rises and brings a smile to our face. Good. And getting to know you, your story, and even off camera, what we were talking about, we found some commonalities where we grew up.
Yes.
So let's start from there. Tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to where you're at today.
Well, grew up in NorCal.
NorCal. NorCal is a Southern California state, right?
Right. So, Northern California. Actually, born in Southern California.
Okay.
However, we moved, my father is in the military, but he was working at Air Force Base, and we moved to the Sacramento area. Uh-huh. I was only 3 years old, so...
Ooh, don't remember that.
Yeah, a little bit. So that's basically all I really knew until I came back here to Southern California to go to university. Went to USC.
Okay.
Fight on.
Trojan.
Yeah. And so started there, got my undergrad, some of those classes out of the way before I transferred to USC. And met my hubby while I was down here.
Yeah.
We actually, funny story, we actually met at a recording studio.
Oh, I could tell. I passed by his recording studio in the house.
Yes. He still has all the instruments. He's my bass man. He has the axe. So I was doing some background vocals. Someone I met in Los Angeles invited me to come sing on some tracks, and I was like, whoa, I've never done that before. Yeah. So did it, and it was a lot of fun. I was so interested to see the boards back then, some years ago. They had those huge boards, and all these levers and buttons and all this, and I'm like, wow.
What's going on?
Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
How neat.
He was the, not only playing, but he was the sound engineer.
Okay.
And so I asked him, I said, can you show me how to work this? And he said, okay, sure, yeah. So
speaking his love language, huh?
Yeah,
he's like, no one's ever asked me that before.
Right? So that kind of, we connected after that. And after I graduated from SC, moved back to Northern California, and he came up and got me and moved me back down here. So cool. That's about what the gist of that is.
Okay, so you said you had never sang before. So how did you get into singing? Did someone just hear you one day? I
had never recorded before.
I misunderstood
Been
that.
singing since I was 3. My mother used to tell me, because my father is a minister also, and so he pastored different churches up there, wherever we would go, and my mother is a missionary, so, and then, of course, being PK kids, preacher's kids.
Yeah. I didn't know they had an acronym for it.
Yes, PK. So, being preacher's kids, we were always in church every Sunday, and we would go different places, and my father also ministered, like in youth authorities and jails, and also on street corners and in different neighborhoods. And so he would have my mother sing, and when we got big enough, we had to sing. Yeah. So my mother said when I was 3 is when the first time I got to sing with my older siblings. I have an older brother and sister. And so been singing ever since, but it was like, it's something you do.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about recording or anything like that until this person approached me about going to the studio with her. So Yeah.
How neat. Do you have any professional recordings we should be aware of, or was it a kind of like a, ooh, I don't know
Well,
about that face.
I've been on some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some stuff out there that you could hear me singing on. So
I'll have to do a deep dive into Google on this. That's entertaining, you know, because my second podcast was Adam, who we both know.
Yes.
And I found out he recorded a whole album, and I'm just
Yes.
the layers are uncovering. It's really neat to
Yes.
hear people's stories and the different divergent paths they take. So
It's true.
okay.
Yeah.
Are you still singing today?
I still sing.
Yeah.
I sing pretty much. I've done some projects in studio work, but I sing for our church praise and worship team.
Okay.
Mainly, and then I sing for certain events, like, sometimes it's a funeral, sometimes it's this or that, so things like that.
How awesome.
In particular, yeah.
Multi-talented, multifaceted. I like that.
Yeah. You got to have, you have your podcast and things.
I have no artistic bone in my body. If you ask me to sing, I'm gonna break the windows.
Someone has to clap or pat you. Do something.
Yeah. There's not too much rhythm in my body either.
Oh.
Luckily, I can talk. That's
Yes,
about it,
you
though.
got the gift of that, for
I don't
sure.
know. Just blah 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 blah. How interesting. But I have to be remiss if I didn't ask. How was the life of a PK? I haven't met too many preacher's kids before. I've heard some stories.
Yeah.
Mostly good. Some like the contrarian who just completely rebelled against them. How was it?
That happens.
Oh, it happens.
That
Okay, so
happens.
that myth is true.
Yes. Sometimes because when you're a preacher's kid, because there's so many restraints, and you can't do this, you can't do that, because you have to show a good example for other young people
Sure.
and things like that.
It's like a lot of pressure.
It can be. I was very fortunate that my parents, they were very strict.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things we couldn't do. However, they replaced those things with fun things.
Ah, good.
So there were a lot of things we could do.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of that in place of even going to parties and things growing up. It's like, no, you can't. No, they're going to have alcohol. They're going to be smoking. No, you don't need to be in that environment. So sometimes that was the case. We did not get to go. I can only speak for myself. What my siblings did is totally different.
We won't out them. We don't want to do that.
So, but they would say, oh no, even with my parents, they were, you couldn't spend the night at anyone else's house unless they were family.
Okay.
And so, but sometimes you would sneak out. And so, yeah.
Did you ever get caught sneaking out?
No.
Oh. You were good then.
Because I was the youngest, I learned from my older siblings' mistakes. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that because,
I'm the youngest too,
Yeah.
so I got to watch
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
This is what I can get away with. This is what I can't. You learn by observation.
Exactly.
And
So,
the parents are a little wiser, and maybe
Yes.
they know, or maybe they don't want to know, and they just pretend they don't know.
yes. Or my siblings used to say, "Oh, you're being easier on her than
You're
you
so
were on."
spoiled.
Yes, spoiled.
I'm better behaved.
Right. I was just wiser, in my
Yeah.
decisions and some things.
That's what I told.
So yeah.
How fun.
Yeah, but it was overall really good. I saw a lot of a giving spirit from my parents. Literally saw my dad give clothes off his back to a homeless person. We were always gathering things to give away, so I thought everybody did that.
Yeah.
So it was like I didn't know.
Come to find out, that's probably an outlier. It's funny in preparing. My fourth observation was giving.
Oh.
So your parents' lessons and ethos passed on to you, and it's really neat to see that, because I think today there's not. Well, there is. It's not as. I don't think it's as hammered into kids these days, but it's so neat to still see that there's people living and giving and being compassionate, and that you're still living that spirit that you grew up with, and you didn't take the path down the other road and be a rebel. So
Yeah.
we're so happy we have that.
No, I didn't. I think I was a little bit of a rebel in some things.
A little bit,
yeah,
right?
But I didn't really go hog wild like some of my, friends that I knew were
Or
PK
this
kids
person.
too. As soon as they got away from school, it's like, bam, I'm doing everything, And I didn't really get that. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do some of that. I'm going to do some of that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But, I think, like I said, what I saw with my siblings, I was like, okay, maybe I won't try that. Maybe I won't do that.
Yeah.
And then, now, don't get me wrong, they were good examples for other things.
They're going to be watching like, damn, Valerie threw us
They
under
were
the
such
bus.
good examples.
Yeah. Say one nice thing about us.
So, but yeah, so it was always, I was looking up to them in a lot of different aspects. And so that definitely
You take the good and you take the bad, and then you disregard the bad and accept the good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, SC, what was the next chapter or season in your life?
So after I graduated from USC, went back up to Northern California and started in my career, dental hygiene as my profession. I graduated with my Bachelor of Science in that and started working, had it all in my head. I'm going to get my own place. I'm going to decorate it, the furniture I want, all this. I'm finally making money, My first job was in a little restaurant. I was, bussing tables and things like that, and a little tiny skirt and all of that kind of thing. And so I had come a long way from there, right?
Yeah.
So was planning all of that. And then my husband came and he said, you know what, I think we should get married. I'm like,
Oh.
okay, that wasn't my plan at the time.
Were you guys dating at the time and living in two separate...
We were dating while I was in Los Angeles area.
Okay.
And he likes to tell the story. He kept me alive because I was a starving student, literally.
I think we all were at some point.
Yeah. I lived very close to the campus with a great aunt. And she was a very unique and lively character. And so... because I was the third one coming and going to school, I didn't want to put that financial burden so much on my parents if I could. So I didn't really try to reach out to them for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And, but my husband, when I met him, at the studio and everything, he was like, oh, do you want to go out to eat? And I'm like, yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, I need a real meal.
Yes, I do.
No more ramen and...
So he'd take me out, and he would laugh because, how they bring the crackers and the ketchup packets and all of that, on the table. I would take several of those and put them in my purse, bring them home, literally. And sometimes I was making, tomato soup for my meal out of ketchup packet.
You were resourceful.
Yes. I was going to get some nourishment somehow. And so I took advantage of when he would take me out to eat.
Yeah, you got your money's worth. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then some. I was going to make a second meal out of that.
Yeah, he probably had some stories. Was that what she was stuffing ketchup in her pocket?
Yeah, he just
saltines in her other pocket?
Right? Take the crackers, take the ketchup packets, the sugar, lemon
Taking
wedges.
some extra pizza on the way out.
So anyway, made it through.
Yeah.
Was about skinny as a rail, but still made it through. So he changed my plans about staying up there in Northern California, and
Came back.
got married, came back down this way.
Okay.
So
Did you still continue in the dental hygienist world?
yes. I actually did dental hygiene for about 40 years before I
Okay.
retired. Yeah, 40 years, and actually. I initially, when I went back to Sacramento and down in Southern California, I worked in the elementary school system. I was a dental health educator as
how
well as
fun.
working on patients in the dental office.
Okay.
So that helped me with using my creativity. I like to put things together and make posters for them and get things so it would be more hands-on.
Yeah, fun learning experience.
Yes, exactly.
I could see you doing that totally. That fits right into your bill.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Up there, I had about 15 classrooms that I would go 4 times a year during the school year, and that's going K through 6. And then when I came down here, I had a little more of close to 25 classrooms in Downey area. It was all over like San Gabriel Valley and different places. So
You were traveling quite a bit.
yes,
Yeah.
which was nice because I was working like part-time in the dental office, like 3 days a week, and the other 2 days I did the...
That's kind of cool because you get to have a little change up every so often.
Exactly. And so that gives you a little change, and you still keeping, like they say, keep your fingers wet, So that was really cool to be able to do that. And I really enjoyed that, working with the kids and seeing. It was very impactful. At that time, there was a Senate bill that had allowed funding for fluoride treatment for elementary school kids and in certain school districts. And also it afforded me supplies so far as toothbrushes and floss and disclosing tablets and different things for them.
Yeah.
And it was really impactful for a lot of those kids because some of them didn't even have their own toothbrush at home.
How disheartening.
So we kept the supplies there. At the end of the school year, they got to take everything home.
How neat. You got to make a difference.
Yes. So I knew at least the time that I was there, they were going to get some dental health going.
Yeah.
Some actual brushing of their teeth and talking about nutrition and how to eat. And the teachers really enjoyed it. The teachers that, because it was voluntary. It wasn't mandatory for them to let us into their classroom for that period of time. And a lot of them were like, yeah, come on, Valerie, because they would be able to do something else or catch up on
give
grading.
A break.
Yes, give them a break. And so at the last class, some of the parents would come and they would say, what the child learned, how it impacted at home. Like they wanted to eat different things. It impacted their choices of food, and their nutrition. It impacted their oral health. Some of them, they just had teeth rotting out.
Yeah.
So some of them had never even had a dental screening before. And so that's what also I provided for them.
That's so neat.
So it was very, very rewarding. And,
I imagine.
And working on patients, of course, was always rewarding too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can imagine because even when I was growing up, the nutrition system in the schools wasn't the greatest.
No.
And some parents didn't have the education that's now coming out about what to supply your kid, what's healthy, what's not healthy.
Exactly. The choices.
The choices in the American diet and all the stuff that's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really, really neat that you had the opportunity to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
I can see the pattern from your parents through your career line of what you're doing, caring and giving back.
Yes. Yeah. Guess that's embedded in me to some degree. So, yes.
Okay, so we were talking about offline about your children. How many children do you have?
3 children, 3 wonderful children.
Yeah, no favorites, right?
No, they're all my favorite.
That's what my mom says.
2 boys and a girl.
Okay.
The girl is the youngest, and they're all up and grown, and such a blessing that they were able to stay on track,
No PKs though, right?
No PKs.
Just the grandparents.
Yes, with the grandparents for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And we were talking about how sports was such a lively part of your house, and how there was some family battles. Yeah. You're coming from Northern California. You're a Warriors fan, right?
Oh, yes. I was a diehard Warriors and 49ers.
Okay. I can deal with the 49ers, but I'm at heart. I'm a Dodgers fan. So
I'm a Dodger Blue fan,
When I grew up in Northern California, everyone hated me. Like, how do you like the Dodgers? You're supposed to be a Giants fan. I'm like, it's my family.
Yeah. I'm a diehard Dodger Blue.
Okay.
You can ask my family even now. Because when I was growing up there were no Sacramento Kings either. No. So there was no basketball team to root for. So the Warriors, that was it. So that's, once I'm attached. So, came down with for school and came back with my husband and turned into a diehard Laker fan.
You can kind of have some split loyalty nowadays, I think, with basketball.
Yes. So there's a little split loyalty there.
But even in the household, you guys had some
knocking heads.
Yeah, you were telling me
Everybody
about it.
would have. We all had different, at one point in time, different football teams.
Oh my gosh.
All different. And then we had different basketball teams to some degree, because as our kids grew up, they would focus on certain player.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you, like my son Nick, he was like Allen Iverson. He's the man, And we were like, wait, Matt, what are you talking about?
We want
Go
Kobe.
up to your room. Yeah.
Kobe.
Yeah. And back then, Magic time. We were back in, Showtime.
Okay.
Lakers. So it was a real thing. I mean, literally, they'd be like, okay, go to another room if you can't root for that team that's on the tube right now.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine the battle of the remote control back in the day.
Yeah.
You guys probably had to have like picture-in-picture or multiple TVs.
Oh, and not usually it was whichever team my husband wanted to see, or else you go to another room that has a TV, you know. Or when it was our team jointly, then everybody. And if you wanted to see something else, you'd have to go to another room. So. Yeah.
Or I was telling you that when my team loses, I'm like, turn the TV off. And my wife's like, no, just leave. I can imagine there's probably some of that in the household too.
Yes. And even college, sports, having your college teams. And because I'm a Trojan.
I mean, you're a Trojan.
You have to root for the Trojan. So I try to get all of them to, be little mini Trojans.
No.
So it worked for a while, but then, even some of my nieces and nephews, they were texting back and forth. Okay, we're going to give you guys the axe. Like I have a niece that went to Stanford. And so, it kind of flowed over into even texting.
Yeah.
The competitive edge with the
How
teams.
Funny.
Yeah, still today it's like that.
Family get-togethers must be entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I imagine your boy, Nick, is having fun right now with the playoffs. I mean, the Warriors won last night, a little upset.
Yes.
So.
I was mentioning to you, he has a YouTube channel. It's Eat, Breathe, Sleep. Hoops. So check it out.
Okay.
So
plug there for it.
It's a really neat way for him to express himself, which he's always done.
Yeah.
I mean, he's played for both of the boys played on traveling teams and all of that. So even I have one of his earliest pictures. He has a blue basketball in his hand, and I declare he's never let go of it.
That's cool.
Never let go of that ball.
That's neat. He was able to parlay his passion into something.
Yeah.
Because I think all of us have a dream of, I want to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
So, even I did, and then I stopped growing. I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
So.
But it's fun to, keep it. I've always told a lot of my friends, as they were growing up, it was a really great motivator for them to do well in school with their grades and things. You can't do sports if you can't keep your grades up in this. And so even to the point where sometimes they would say, well, coach says all I need is a C. Yeah, I'm like, well, a coach is not your mother or your father.
You want to come home and get some food?
Right. If you want to keep playing, that C has to be A's and B's, So that was a big motivator for them, and they did very well. So, yeah, but it definitely helped.
Good. Yeah, you got to stay motivated, and you got to stay on the right path, because you can't always just rely on, I'm going to be a professional athlete, because that doesn't really play out for most people.
No, not for the majority of people.
Yeah.
It's a nice dream to have, and if it motivates you to get to where you're going to be. A lot of times, too, I would tell them, even if you don't, and I never told them they wouldn't. The oldest one, was really into football a lot, too. And so those disciplines that they're learning by playing in sports and playing team sports and even individually, it really impacts them.
They become life lessons and how you can apply it forward for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah.
Speaking of life,
yes,
I know you through North American and the Star.
Yes.
So you're not fully retired.
I am not.
Tell us about that little career that you're doing right now.
North and the Star.
North and the Star. I love when you present. There's always the North and the Star in there.
And that's our forward-facing name. It was North American Bank Card.
Okay.
It's a merchant services payment processing company. It's kind of interesting how I got into that.
I was about to ask you how you got into that. Yes,
from being that's totally not related. While I was working in the dental field, my parents moved up here close to me, and they actually lived right next door.
Oh, wow.
So it just worked out. It was definitely a God thing, how it worked out for them to be my next door neighbors for so many years. And during that time, and as they got older, my mother's health declined. Just to make a long story short, and I needed to leave the dental office and my patients often to go see about her or to see about them. Something happened. So fortunately, I wasn't that far. But when you have patients booked all day, it can run into some issues. And so working the 10-hour day and seeing so many patients, which I loved doing. My patients were like family,
Yeah, imagine after 40 years.
Yes. I would see generations. I'd see the parents and the grandparents and the children and their grandchildren. So they would all come, and so it was great. And So because that was starting to happen more and more, the dentist that I was working with at the time, I told him I'm going to have to cut back my days because they need me more now than before. And I didn't think it was right for me to have to leave a patient, but I had to go because, they had a fall. Yes, or something. So reduced my days working in the actual office setting. And someone introduced this to me. They introduced several things because I was trying to kind of complement, kind of replace some of the income that I was losing for not working the days in the office. And so I was introduced to payment processing, which I knew nothing about, and met someone who that was his business, and met him at a different conference that I was at in a whole different city. And when we started talking, and he said, "Oh, would you mind if I call you?" And and I'm like, "Okay." I gave him my number, and he said, "Oh, you're in the 805." I'm like, "Yeah, you know the 805?" And he's like, "I'm in the 805 too." I'm like, "What?" We were in Nevada. World. Yeah, small world. And so it turned out he was not too far from me where I live. And so we laughed about that. And so we worked together for a while too. And then COVID hit, and he was a young guy who was just getting really up and started. And that really kind of, hit him very hard for his business. And so he had to close his office here. And I don't know how, but someone gave this other company my name and number, and the person called and said, "Are you still interested in doing this kind of work, and this and that?" And I'm like, "Well, let me see," And I looked into them, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I can do this." And I was like a kid in a candy store because they had all these other little extra things that I could, customize. And I was helping like my patients and people we knew from church and different organizations.
You had a built-in clientele already, huh?
Right, because we would talk about, their businesses and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, this might be able to help, be of a help to them.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can do this, and I can be in the room with my mother and still be working and be right there in the house. And so anyway, it was something I can do and kind of supplement some of that that I was missing out on so far as working in the dental office setting. And it worked out great for me. I was still able to help people. I was communicating with people, and a lot of that was phone and Zoom at the time because of COVID and all of that. So
now we're back in person.
Yes. I love that. And so so that's how I got introduced to it and started doing that, and been doing it ever since.
Yeah.
And
it seems like the job found you.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Very much fits your personality.
I never thought of it like that, Logan. It's true.
Yeah.
It was like, it's true. Because I was looking for something, trying to see what would work.
Yeah.
And it actually found me.
It's funny how if you're open to things and you're not pushing and forcing, life kind of has a way of finding the right path for you as long as you're open to the opportunity and seize it.
Yes. Wow, you're so philosophical.
It's just from interviewing all these smart people. I'm able to by osmosis absorb some of their lessons.
That is absolutely the truth, and I look at it in that way, and it's kind of like a God thing. People say, the universe, meant for that to all happen.
Sure.
Just like my parents moving next door to me.
Yeah.
It was definitely a God thing because different things happen in order for it to end up there.
Yes.
And I really believe that that's what happens.
There has to be so many sequence of events, and it's almost inexplicable. You can't can't be too many coincidences in a row.
Exactly. It's like, that's not a coincidence. I was telling one of our friends here, when I told him that my parents were going to be moving into the house next door to me, he says, "How did you work that out?" I'm like, I didn't work it out.
It just worked out.
Yeah, it just kind of worked out that way. And it literally, if I tell you the whole story how that worked out, it's quite a long story, but it was a very unique situation, how it all came to be. And they lived there for a number of years. And so
sounds like a blessing.
It definitely, thank you. It was definitely a blessing.
Yeah, it's neat to be able to spend some time, come kind of like full circle. You know, you go away and you come back and you spend the last years with the last and best years with your parents and the people you love.
Yes. And my children were able to spend a lot of, very quality time with their grandparents, you know,
that's really
which it was very, I think, so instrumental in their development and the stages that they were going through at the time. And so I just really think that's such a blessing.
I think back and it's so neat to have the grandparents because they're they can be the cool parents and you're like, man, I can't talk to mom and dad. I can go talk to the grandma and grandpa. Exactly. And they can totally give you different advice and parents mean well. They're just listen to them, be patient. And so you kind of get the full spectrum. So that's really cool.
Exactly. And I feel that's exactly what happened. It gave my children that other layer of support too, as they were growing.
And you had a little built-in babysitter too. If you guys are like, I'm sick of
for kids. Sure. It's like, okay,
go next door.
Yeah. Go check on Grandma. Go check on Nana and Papa.
How funny. How neat.
Yes.
Wow. That's really, really interesting. I was very fortunate to have some involved grandparents. They didn't live next door. I don't think they would have let us, but we definitely got the full experience of having very involved grandparents. Awesome. And I think it's so cool that your kids got that experience, especially you did as well.
It's priceless.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. Speaking of priceless, I want to talk about what I think is probably the most interesting thing that I researched of your career is you're an author.
Yes, I'm an author.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into it, what you wrote about. I haven't read your book yet, so I'm guilty of that, but I will get to it. I really love the title of your second book. So tell us a little bit about being an author and what inspired that.
Thank you. So, you know how they say sometimes the most challenging times of your life can be the fork in the road for you to choose a different direction and things like that. But it can also lead to other experiences that you may never have thought of. Yeah. Just like with going into payment processing and merchant services, I never thought of that. Yeah. 40 years of doing dental hygiene, I didn't even know. I just took them to the front desk and the girls handled that. I was like, I don't even know anything about that. Do this. Yes, but because of what was happening with my mother, that led that avenue to open up. And also, similarly, the same thing happened with my mother going through that and my caregiving journey with her and my father. One of the ways I was coping with having so much going on was talking into my cell phone.
Oh, wow.
So I had this keep notes in my phone. So at the end of the day, I would talk, say some things into my phone.
That's smart.
Kind of get it off my chest or kind of remind myself, okay, and remember to do this tomorrow. Yeah. Check on that for them. Do this, and I'd always put in my phone. So each day had an entry.
It's like electronic journaling.
Yes. And I really never even thought of journaling until after I wrote the book. And the people are like saying, oh, it's like you're journaling. I'm like, yeah. And so that's why my book, it is a journaling book. I have pages in there for people who read it, who are going through a similar situation, to jot down their thoughts, their emotions, what they wish they could have said if the loved one is deceased, what they needed to do for themselves, what they could have done better, and those are the things that I was putting in my cell phone. So when my mother passed, it came to me that I should get all of that, dump it off of my phone because it was a lot, right? Yeah. So, and I feel like, God just told me to put it all in a Word document. So it just came to me like that. And so I got up that next morning and I said, okay. And so I started taking it off my phone and just putting it in a Word document. So I did a few each day, kept doing that, and just connected it. Didn't have any order, or rhyme, or reason to it. Just whatever the entry was, the next entry, I just put it in there. Yeah. And so when I got to the last entry, I looked at it and I said, this looks like a book.
There's a lot of pages on.
Yeah. I'm like, whoa, this is more than I thought. And so I asked a few people, I said, what do you think about if I wrote made this into a book. Maybe it could help someone else,
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you're going through things, which I was guilty of, I wasn't sharing a lot of what I was going through or the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally get in my car and just drive, go to the beach. Thank God we're close to the beach. Go to the beach and just sit in the car and look at the waves and just sometimes scream.
Yeah.
Or whatever I had to do, cry or whatever, because I didn't want my family to see that. Mm-hmm. I wanted everybody to feel like she's handling it. She's got
You're
it.
the rock of the family, huh?
Well, I was trying to be.
Trying to be.
Yes. So, and I didn't want anyone feeling like I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of what I was putting in the phone, I wasn't sharing with other people.
Wow.
Some people gave me positive feedback, some didn't, Yeah. Some people were like, whoa, it's kind of personal, I don't know if you want to put that out there, and other people were like, oh yeah, that was probably good, people would probably like to see how you made it through. And so you hear pros and cons and you take what
it's your life. So it's kind of like
it's my thoughts and things, and I'm like, I didn't even know what to call it, and then someone said, oh, it's like your memoirs. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it is.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting the word to what I was trying to perceive. So it was kind of like memoirs. And then because I wanted to make it a space also for someone else to utilize as they go through the different segments and how it impacts you financially and physically and spiritually and mentally, emotionally. A journey like that can impact you in so many different ways. Totally. And so that's what I did, and kind of organized it and put it together. And I said, okay, now how do you publish this? So I did some research and came up with this publishing company that looked like they would do it in a way that I saw it could get done without an awful lot of time.
Yeah.
That I didn't have. I didn't have a lot of spare time. So went with them. It's a company called Spines, and I went with them and went through the process, got the book out, and I said, okay, here it is. Now what are we going to do? And so put it out there and started going to different, during that time, things transpired where my father came back to live in the area here. And so we found an assisted living for him because I have too many stairs and things he couldn't navigate.
Yeah.
So at his assisted living, the coordinator said, oh, I heard you wrote a book. And I said, oh, yeah, I have. She said, would you like to do like a book presentation here? And I'm like, wow. Sure, so I did. Yeah, I didn't know what that was. So I'm like going and Googling things. How do you do that? And so anyway, that led to several other places, assisted living places that I did it. And
a little book tour,
book signing. I have books. I had some marvelous friends, two in particular, Lisa and Darlene, that were just so key in being supportive with me and coming and helping me, and my son and my husband, and just the support I had here locally from friends, and they're like, oh, okay, hey, we'll try and be there and things like that. So it was just wonderful and turned into something like that. So
what was the feedback like from your family once they were able to read, absorb, and digest everything that was contained in that book?
Honestly, it was mostly positive.
Good. Were they shocked? Like, oh my gosh, Mom, I didn't realize all the stuff you were going through.
There was some of that. It's like, I didn't realize that you were going through. Why didn't you say something? And like I said, I didn't want to share too much of what was going on because I honestly, because everyone has things going on in their families and lives. And so I actually felt like it was my assignment to care for them.
You're a mom. It's kind of like you got to take everyone's burden and not put your burdens on other people, I feel like.
Right. I didn't want to burden them down with, I felt like if I handle it, I'm just going to keep trucking. Yeah. So, yeah. So I looked at it, honestly, too, as an assignment, but part of my purpose and, my privilege, too. So... Yeah.
Well, that's really neat. Thank you for sharing that. I know that it can't be easy, and the world has a gift now. So, I mean, you might think you're the only person going through something, but there's so many people that are going through stuff. So many
people. I didn't realize the feedback that I got from people. They're like, I mean, I had people even call me and we'd cry over the phone because they're like, oh, this let me finally unload.
Oh, how neat.
So much.
There you are, caring and giving again.
Yeah. Part of my purpose, I guess.
Yeah, that's a wonderful purpose to have.
Yeah.
God put you on this earth for a reason. So that was your first book.
Yes.
When was that published, and what was the time between that and your last book you published?
That was it came out in May of last year.
Okay.
The first book. And then the second book came out actually by December.
Wow.
Yes, because during that time too, I have two wonderful little grandchildren. My oldest son and his wife.
I remember you're always babysitting.
Yeah, sometimes I would be on the meeting and I'd have the little one in my lap and she'd wake up like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So that was really cool. But they loved, their parents had this whole regimen of things to do. Well, I shouldn't say regimen, but suggestions of things that they'd like to have done. And so
suggestions. Loose suggestions, right? Yes.
And so one of them was to read 10 books to them a day. And when I first saw that, I was like, what? How am I going to do that? But little kids' books go quick, right? Yeah. And then it was so much fun to read to them. And just to, even when they were really little, having them watch my mouth and start to form their lips trying to, say the words. I mean, so priceless, you know, and for them to hold the book and act like they're reading it to me. Just different things,
mimicking, right?
Yeah, it's so much fun. And so I said, gosh, I wish I could write a book for them. And then I said, why can't I? So I always would, mention to them, because I was seeing their personalities develop and all of that, and wonder what they're going to be. What are they going to grow up to be?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'd ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And things like that. And they'd say this, that, or the other.
Changes from day to day, huh?
Yes, it changed. It changed a lot. And I said, this book, for them to imagine, the imagination of a child is just phenomenal.
That's insane.
It is so cool. And we used to do the same thing with our children when they were growing up. Imagine yourself, I used to joke about the son that's the attorney, because even from when he was little, he always had to prove his point. He always had good points to prove.
I can't argue with you win.
Right? Sometimes he'd say something and we'd say, XYZ, okay, that's it. He'd say, well, XYZ, why? And then we're like, oh my gosh, he has a good point,
He got me again.
He's going to be an attorney. I know it, So,
I never grew up like that.
No. So how did you become?
I don't know. I think I just kind of fell into it.
You fell into it?
I wanted to go to grad school, and being a doctor was too challenging, I think. Yeah. And I always was interested in humanities and history, and so law school was the next logical progression. Yeah. But I never had that moment when I was a little kid, like, I'm going to be an attorney.
He never actually said it, but I just told him, I said, you're going to be, because of his personality, and so, but just kind of, because I think at the time he wasn't planning to do that, and kids go through different stages, right? Oh, really? So at some points they wanted to be, Free Willy was out, and they wanted to be marine biologists, and we were taking them to the aquariums and all, and then something else would come up, and I want to do that, and I'm going to be a pediatrician. I'm going to be, a nurse. Well, my daughter did become a nurse, but and just different things. So that's what the book, Who Me? Yes, It Could Be. That was my children's book. Yeah. And it's really to give them ideas to imagine, what can you be? That could be you. What you see on TV, what you see in other people, that could be your face, that becoming that. Sure. And so just to let them imagine, and that it actually turned out a little bit longer book than I anticipated, because once I got started on it, I was like, I want to add this in there too. I have so much to say. Because I wanted to really address, the little boys and the little girls and a mixture of that. Yeah. You're not pigeon-toed into one little, this is not the only only thing you could be as a guy, and they're not the only thing you could be as a girl. You know,
The world is your oyster as long as you're willing
Exactly.
to go out and try it. And it's neat that
Right.
you were so encouraging of your kids to try new things and then give them
Yes.
exposure. That's really
yeah, I
really
think
neat
that's
that
important.
you gave your kids that opportunity.
Yes, I actually enjoyed the children's book so much that I'm in the process of writing 2 other children's books right
geez.
now. Yeah, they're
You're gonna be a little mogul.
I'm formatting them right now, but they're a little shorter than the first children's book, and so but also dealing with the child's perspective of combating fear of doing certain things.
Well, you seem fearless, so I'm gonna take your words of encouragement. You just seem to. I'm gonna figure it out. I don't know how to do this, but I'll research and figure it out.
You can figure it out. Yeah, and then the other one is about healthy choices.
Sure.
So I think even if you have a child, which brings me back to when I was working with the children in the
full
school.
circle again.
Yes, that even if your environment may not be healthy, the child can have healthy choices to make even within that environment. So that's what the second one is.
How neat.
Yeah.
And there's another book, right? The Sandwich Generation.
Yes. Now that's the subtitle to my first book.
Oh, okay.
Peanut butter and jelly. Anyone?
I just love that
the
title.
Sandwich
It makes me
generation.
hungry. I just
Yeah, and
wanna
the nice peanut butter and jelly sandwich, because you feel like when you're going through a situation like that, you feel pressure kind of from all sides. So you can feel a bit of a squeeze.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to say, okay, I'm going to embrace the squeeze and just go forward. So that's why I put that as the subtitle.
I love that title. I was just like,
Thank
man,
you.
it's such a cool title, and it just makes me want to eat food now. Like we're interviewing around lunchtime. I'm gonna go home, have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Right? At the book signings I did at the assisted living homes, I would bring these it's an old-fashioned peanut butter candy. I don't know if you old enough to recall, but I know when I was growing up, we had these it was a little like rectangular shaped little peanut butter candy that tastes like peanut butter, and it had a little hard shell to it. So good. So at all my book signings, I'd have those out for people, and they're like, oh, I remember this.
Nostalgic.
And so, yeah, very nostalgic. And so that's the peanut butter and jelly anyone theme. So. Mm-hmm.
All right. So you've had many seasons. What's besides 2 books? What do you have next on the agenda?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I really don't know.
That's awesome.
I just
Is that fun?
It is fun. I have to see what's coming. I know during that time also I wrote some songs.
Jeez.
And so
Where do you have time to do all this? Grandma?
I know.
Mom?
Thank God for
Employed?
It's like I'm one of those people that it's hard for me to be still and be.
I need to
doing
introduce you to my mom. You guys have
probably
very
get
similar
along really well.
personalities. Yeah. Can't sit still, always doing something.
Right.
Just producing so much volume of awesomeness.
Thank you. My mother used to tell me, and I was just talking about this with my father earlier this week, because when I see so many things that could be done, and so I'm thinking, okay, how I can get it done. And then a lot of times, when people ask me, can you do such and such? And I would say yes.
Yeah.
Hard to say no, but I'm learning to say no a little bit more.
It's hard. It's a very tough skill.
Yes. And so my mother would say, you have to learn how to just turn your brain off sometimes. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. I'm still trying to figure that out. How can I just turn it? Like, I joke about I have friends that can just take a nap. As soon as the head hits the pillow,
they're out.
God, I wish I could do that. I can't turn it off. It's always been a process for me to finally fall asleep.
Yeah.
To finally wind down.
Yeah.
To do all that. So
it's like a blessing and a curse.
Oh yeah.
Do I have any tips for turning my brain off? No. I don't. I'm sorry. Usually I'm so tired. I kind of straddle being that person that I could fall asleep right here.
Yeah.
And then if I'm thinking, I can't go to sleep. So I can be both.
Oh.
But what I've learned.
Found a happy medium, maybe.
Yeah, I just try. I found that having eating well, not drinking too much, and meditating at night, or just having a very relaxing evening is probably the best recipe for me, at least. My cousin's a holistic naturopath. She was, I think, my 4th podcast. And she has suggested following Andrew Huberman. He has a whole sleep cycle, like how to optimize your sleep. So I'll pass it on to you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so
I've had people suggest, oh, Valerie, have some chamomile tea at night, before bed. And I do that almost every night. Sometimes it works a little bit, sometimes it doesn't. And then I've had people say, use jasmine. I had some sweet people that just gave me essential oils, to put on your wrists and your temples and all that. That didn't really help, but it was a really nice thought, and I love the smell of it. And so different things.
At this point, you're willing to try almost
everything. I've tried several things, breathing, breathing, doing breaths, and so eventually. So I just figured, okay, this is me.
Yeah, it's just you.
So
acceptance. But you've produced so much amazing stuff.
Thank you.
That's so cool. So I know we're wrapping up on time, and I haven't even got to this stuff yet. How awesome is that? I love when that happens to me. That I look at the outline and I'm like, I'm so off cue, but that means we had a good conversation.
Yeah.
But so part of my podcast was distilling some nuggets for other people. And what would you say, or what would you credit for you being able to transition so easily? Maybe it wasn't easy, but what seems to be successful transitions, what would you credit are your keys to success?
Well, I have this saying that I actually came up with when I was in school. It was live life to the fullest, but don't forget who gave you life. And it's on my book, my first book. But I think that I kind of go by that. Live life, enjoy it as much as you can. Just remember, for me, is to remember to care for those around you.
Sure.
So I think that's my key to success, really, is to, I wish I had a more profound nugget to give you on that.
I think that's great. Certain people have different ways to say it, but I think the idea is the same. Be grateful and give back. And I think there doesn't need to be anything profound. It's almost like a golden rule in life.
Yeah. I know my father preached a message one time and said, let gratitude be your attitude. And
there we go. Your dad's very very eloquent.
I'll take his.
I like that one. Yeah, I'm gonna
so
steal
I
that.
kind of live by that. I always try and be grateful for what's going on that's not a good space for me. Be grateful and find something to be grateful for.
There's something in the world you have to be grateful for, and you can find it if you look for it.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Seek it out. And
Count
it's
those
amazing
blessings.
what happens when you're having a bad day and you just find something to reframe your thoughts or find something to be grateful for, and you're like, what am I doing?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm here. Why am I being negative?
Right. Yeah. My parents used to always say, you eat all your peas. There's kids that would love to have those peas. So you be grateful for whatever's on your plate, finish that. And so, that's how I view life too. Someone else would be so grateful for what you feel like you're lacking.
And I bet when you were in college, you would have loved to have those damn
I wanted
peas.
more than I wanted more than ketchup packets to make tomato soup.
How funny. So I also like to ask this question because not everyone has instant success. There's a lot of, I'm going to say, hurdles or obstacles. How were you able to overcome hurdles or obstacles in your path and in your life and your journey from being a hygienist to being a professional to being an author to being a mom to being a grandma? Talk to me about that.
So I think, there's always going to be obstacles in whatever you're pursuing. I think the key for me was just to keep going. Even when the obstacle was negative thoughts, or negative comments, you just have to keep going. I'm one of those, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm going to, I used to tell a friend of mine, I just have to get it done. And literally every time I say it, I do this. And so when I caught myself, I'm like, why am I doing that? But it's because,
doing that.
Yeah, it's like, I got to get it done. I'm going to get it done. Get it done. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
So just keep going and you'll get over the obstacle and then you'll be looking back at it and saying, I got over that. I just got it done.
When you were telling me about being an author, I was thinking about how so many authors, it's so hard for them to get past like the writer's block and just put in the work. And I think of the the Stephen Pressman book, The Work is the Art of the Art is the Work.
Yes, Art is the Work, I think. Yeah.
And it's just amazing how prolific you are and how so many people just get stuck, like analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
And so that's really, just keep plugging away.
Yeah, get it.
Now we're both doing it. See? We're going to keep doing it. That's really neat. Just get it done. And let gratitude be your attitude. I like that. Those are going to be now adopted in my vernacular. Is there any like podcast, books, or anything you can suggest to people that you regularly rely on, or anything aside from your experience that you listen to on a regular basis? Can you tell me about that?
Not any in particular that I could recommend. However, I do a devotional daily.
Okay.
I have a devotional. They're scriptures, inspirational scriptures.
How neat.
That I do read daily. It kind of sets the tone for my day.
Sure.
Or it helps me sleep at night.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's, they say it's a daily thing, but sometimes I do it both in the morning and at night.
Yeah.
For different reasons. But other than that, no books in particular. And I do like to, and if you look in, I do have a lot of books, all of that. I have books there. I have books up there. I have books in my office. I have books, by my bed. I have, but,
and you've only written half of them now.
But yeah, I think if you find something that is inspiring to you, and stick with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's someone else's journey. Sometimes that's just some words that are put together in a way that resonates with you.
Totally.
So
it's kind of like finding your passion or your purpose.
Right.
And it's sometimes you might not feel that you found it, but it's there, and you can't identify it. I know people always like, find your passion or your purpose. Like, I don't know what my passion or purpose is, but that driving force inside you, that might be it, and you're not able to identify what it may be.
And sometimes it takes trying different things.
Totally.
For you to find what you're really passionate about.
You have to be open to opportunity.
Yeah. Open to different things, different ideas, different ways of doing
like
things.
You.
Oh, but being open is like, okay, let's give it a try, you know? Let's look into that.
You never know. You might become an author just by happenstance. What would you say? I like this one because there's people that are like, okay, give me the routine. Do you have any non-negotiables in your life, your daily activities, something that you just have to do or you cannot be without?
The one thing that comes to my mind is I'm a little maybe what they call OCD.
Your house is very clean.
I like things kind of in order, and if things are, I like things to have a pattern to it.
Sure.
I'm very much a routine type of person in some aspects. When I have that, then I can open myself to other things. Yeah. So I think that's part of like with the payment processing, there's an order to it.
Yeah.
And when I'm helping business owners get set up, it's like, if we do this is the outcome you'll have. That's what you want.
That.
Yes. So, and it just kind of grows, and it is exponentially can grow once you get things in order. And I think that's the only thing, is I do like, if I see something, I might do this, kind of reposition.
My wife does that, and so I'll go and she'll make the bed, and I'll just slightly nudge
little
the pillow. She'll be
stinker.
like, I know what you did. I'm like, I just love messing with her.
So those type of things I do. I try not to let it overtake me.
Yeah.
Which they don't usually overtake me, but it can irk me. And like I love to cook, and so but if I'm going in the kitchen and I'm going to cook, a meal or something, and it's messed up by somebody else, I'm like, I can't cook in here, so I'm not going to cook now. So it's like...
I have a question. Are you one of those people that you clean as you cook? Like,
I do.
Immediately have to clean?
I usually clean as I go.
Yeah.
And then someone tell me, just leave it.
That's
and
me.
let
I'm
somebody
like,
else
make
do
a
it.
mess.
And then, and then when I do that, I'm still looking back at it and I'm kind of like cleaning up part of it, But usually, and I think I got that from my mother too, because she would do that. I know. She would, as she was cooking, she was cleaning. So I was like, okay, that's what you do. You cook and you clean as you go, and so there's not a big mess at the end.
Yeah.
You know. So
I'm not a great cook by any stretch of the imagination. Well, I'm great at making a mess. And I'm like, I'm fine with the mess. I'll clean it when I get to it.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, hey, you better clean that up.
I know a lot of people like that.
Maybe it's a guy thing. I don't know.
It is mostly guys, I know, but I do know some ladies that they're like that too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, girl, I'll get that.
We'll get to it when we need to.
I'll get to it.
How awesome. So I like this question. I wish I could say I took credit for it. 5 people, past, present, that you wish you could have at your dinner table. Could be anyone. Historical, sports, whatever you like.
I would have loved to have my great-grandmother at my table and really pick her brain. My family history is a little interesting in that we're of Native American heritage. And so that was when Irish came into the family. So I would have liked to see her, how that happened.
Sure.
And then someone else, there was a woman that her name was Barbara McCoo Lewis. She was a missionary and a state mother. I mean, she was very, just a very elegant woman to me. Mm-hmm. And I looked up to her. I didn't really know her well. I spoke to her a few times, which I thought was cool. But I always saw her as a very stately woman.
Sure.
You know, and I was like, gosh, that is really cool, you know. And then I would like to sit down and talk with Michelle Obama. I just want to see how did that all come together, you know, and what was like in there. And because I imagine how much she had to take and come up against.
Sacrifice too.
Yes. To be in the role of the first lady of the USA. Yeah. Really? And everything that's going on and how you navigate and hold yourself up in that kind of situation.
While you're raising 2 daughters.
Right.
And it seemed like it was a role she didn't really want to be in.
Like she would have picked something not that. Yeah. And so, yeah, and she just struck me as a very intelligent woman. I need to get her book. Someone told me that I need to read her book, and I haven't yet. But
I'll give you my wife's copy.
Oh yeah, I would love to read that.
It's a good read.
You know, and then on the male side, actually have a number of people that I wish I could have spoken to, and one is my father's father, because he initially grew up on a reservation. Oh wow! And so I would have liked to know why he left there. He was one of his, I think the only brother of his whole family that left there, moved to California. And
where did he move from?
Oklahoma.
Okay, like the Trail of Tears, I think. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, most likely. And so that whole making the decision that, okay, I'm going to need to get up and leave from here and to raise a family somewhere else.
Crazy to think one decision changed the whole trajectory
of all these generations, right? And I see that still. We have a family reunion that's coming up, and I've been doing some research, which I've done multiple times over the years. Yeah. And I was just stopping to think about, gosh, I wonder how that was and what really triggered him saying, okay, I want to leave and I need to, and what, you know, to move the family there out of the whole state. I mean, go west.
Just to get in their head, like what spurred that decision?
Right.
And it seems like back in the early, like my grandparents, they all decided to come to California. It was the opportunity and place to come make a new life and cheap housing and opportunity was gold. Yeah. So it would be interesting to be able to get inside people's heads if you could.
Right. I think about stuff like that, you know, what made them make the decisions that they made and how that impacted everything else going on. But there's so many other people I could go through a whole list.
You know, I've asked that question and I've been asked that question. My answer always changes. It's never consistent. Maybe
it
like one or two
what's
people.
Going on.
Yeah, totally. So from a serious question to a more fun question.
Okay.
Who's your favorite athlete? I think I know the answer, but I'm not going to say.
My favorite athlete of all times or still playing?
You can answer it as however you want.
Well, Kobe Bryant would be one of my favorites. Magic Johnson is just a little bit above
I
Kobe.
thought it was going to be Magic. I thought it was going to be Magic.
Oh my gosh, Magic Johnson. Yes, he would be another person I'd like to come sit at my table.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd be a fun person to dine with.
Yeah.
So.
The only consistent answer in my top 5 is Michael Jordan. Throughout.
Oh yeah.
It's always Michael Jordan because
That
that's
would
who
be
I
my
grew up
Sunday.
with.
Yes, Michael
I was
Jordan.
a Michael Jordan fan.
Yeah.
And even to this day, it's like, it's like, who's the best player ever? I'm like, not even a conversation. And I'm like, now I'm
like
starting
my
to think
son
like,
now.
man, LeBron, yeah, he's like 1B, and I can't even. I don't even know if I can say that anymore, but it's always going to be Michael Jordan, regardless of whatever the data says.
Yes.
How funny.
It's true. It's true.
I love those conversations because there's no way to win or even have.
Yeah.
It's so biased, and it's who you grew up rooting for.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Who was it when you were growing up? So, yeah. Because I could tell you some football players too. That, it depends on the sport too.
Okay, well, who was your favorite football player?
Oh, Jerry Rice.
Okay. Oh, did you?
Joe Montana.
I just met Jerry Rice.
You did?
I did, and I got to sign football with him
What?
at an event. Yeah, I'll have to show you the picture offline.
I'd
It's
love
on my
to see
Instagram.
it. Yes.
He's so cool. He still looks like he can get out there and play.
Yes.
He's like 60, and he's dressed all sharp, and he looks like he can get out there
taking care of
and
himself.
outwork
Oh my
anyone out
gosh.
there. He looks phenomenal. It's insane.
But I tell you, some of them, some athletes, they keep up with themselves and they look still athletic, even as they're aging. And he's one of those.
Yeah, and he said, I wanted to look good when I went out there, and I'm like, you're looking at his immaculately tailored suit, and he's like, I had to have everything white and clean and pressed, and you could just tell the approach in his life was just so methodical.
Exactly. There was a process to getting prepared to do the job,
And it was like, he's like, I might have not been the best athlete, but I was always the most prepared. I was like, that just stuck with me. Like,
That's a good
it was really
thing to
cool, and it
think
was
about,
fun to
too.
meet him because Jerry Rice was my favorite
cool.
NFL player of all time too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we could do this for days. But one last one: who's your favorite current NBA player?
My favorite current NBA player, even though I'm here in SoCal, I have to say Steph Curry.
I thought it would be Curry.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, he changed the game for sure.
Yes, and he has. I like to see a player really playing with fire, and
He doesn't
like
mind
Kobe. Back he had ice in his face. Kobe, when he put on that Mamba face, I mean, watch out. He's gonna take care of
No
business.
one's as intense as Kobe.
I tell you, no one's that intense nowadays.
Yeah.
I do like LeBron. He's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Because there's moments that I see, and then I'm getting into my son Nick's YouTube thing because we talk about that back and forth. But Steph Curry, for sure. Yeah.
I like how he talks shit too. Like he'll make that and he'll just walk away and it's so annoying. But he knows, like he shoots, like let's go in, walking back, talking, bye bye, or he'll do like. That's neat. I wanted to ask though, who is your son's current favorite NBA player?
The one with the YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I wish I knew because we go back and forth as who's better, but I think it is who you said. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan?
I believe that's his favorite.
So
yes.
Definitely my favorite. I was watching the Warriors game last night. My favorite NBA player, he had a terrible game last night, but it's Anthony Edwards because he reminds me of the old school.
He's good. Yes.
And he's just...
Did you see how he was pushing on LeBron at the game? I'm like, who is that?
Who is this guy? I like his attitude.
Especially for playoffs,
Yeah.
It's a whole different attitude you got to come with.
I think I have an idea. I think we're going to have to do a joint YouTube session with Nick and you and me, and we can talk.
He could definitely do that.
He'll probably do circles around us. It'll be fun to do regardless.
Yeah, he definitely could do that. He has really good points, and then he could tell you the stats.
Yeah, no, I can't do that anymore.
Stuff, and I'm like, okay.
No,
literally, he eats, sleeps, and breathes hoops.
I stopped being prepared when I was a little kid. Oh, funny.
Yes.
That's neat. You guys, there's a lot of passions that drive your families. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to round this out with the last question. If there was one piece of advice, one message that you could disseminate to the world, what would it be?
I have to go back to, just get after, keep going, just do it. What you set your mind to, just make sure the motivation is right, and just get to it and do it. Don't delay, don't let people discourage you from reaching it. Just go after it.
I like it.
Yeah.
And I like that you still have the hand sign.
Yeah. Now I'm going to be thinking about that one.
No, keep it up. It reinforces and emphasizes the point. I love it. Valerie, thank you. This was so much fun. Thanks for joining me on this.
You're so welcome, Logan.
I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
I'm gonna get hugs now. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Quirky Podcast. I hope you enjoyed diving into another inspiring journey and found some nuggets of wisdom to take with you. If you love this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a conversation. You can find all our episodes on your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube. Until next time, stay curious, be inspired, and keep carving your own unique path. Catch you on the next episode of Quirky Podcast.